From Diggy Simmons trying to diss J. Cole after Cole hooked up with his sister and getting clowned for it, to Rich the Kid getting jumped by a 5'4" Lil Uzi Vert and running away, there have been plenty of embarrassing beefs in hip-hop. So today we're going to be looking into hip-hop's most embarrassing beefs, starting off with Diggy Simmons versus J. Cole. Diggy Simmons is the son of Reverend Run, one of the founding members of Run DMC. He had the spotlight on him ever since he was a child because he started his acting career, and while he did have some success of his own in music, one of his most notable moments was his beef with J. Cole, which in my opinion might have been one of the most embarrassing in hip-hop history. Keep in mind, Diggy started his music career while he was still really young, so this beef kicked off when he was just 17. Some tension started to build up after J. Cole released two songs, Purple Rain in 2010 and Grew Up Fast in 2011. Diggy took offense to the lyrics in both songs, which were seemingly directed towards his older sister, Vanessa Simmons. In Purple Rain, Cole describes a relationship with her when he says, "Good girl, huh? Father was a preacher. Sent her off to college, thought he got her on a leash though. From outside, man, them girls be the squeakiest. You get him inside, them girls be the freakiest." Apparently, Cole and Vanessa went to St. John's University together, so that in combination with the fact that her father was a preacher, led fans and Diggy to assume that Cole was talking about her. However, Vanessa has denied ever having that sort of relationship with Cole during college. But then, when Cole name-dropped Diggy and Vanessa on Grew Up Fast, things escalated quickly. He said, "Move along, cocksucker, ain't nothing to see. Unless you talking blockbusters, you guys is not Russell. You more Diggy. Me, I'm more Biggie. No diss to the young boy, I'm just rapping. Get bored quickly." And a bit later in the song, he says, "What up, Vanessa? I loved you that one semester." Diggy pretty obviously had enough of all the comments on his family, so he decided to put out his own diss. I mean, I'd be pretty mad too if someone was rapping about knocking down my sister. Anyways, Diggy's track was titled What You Say to Me and addressed all the rumors. He says, "The other day I was listening to Purple Rain. Couldn't believe all the things I heard him say. Heard you lying on my sis telling people that you hit. When your album drops, I'ma hit you with your brick. So I'ma bomb first on you since you wanna riff." The diss track got a lot of attention and left many people wondering if it was an April Fool's joke, since it was kind of odd for a young Diggy Simmons to be going after J. Cole. However, as it turns out, the song was actually recorded a year prior and only got out because it had leaked. However, the song leaking is a bit of a strange coincidence, since the track was leaked just 1 week after Diggy dropped his debut album to not much success. Then Diggy's dad, Reverend Run, backed up his son on Twitter saying, "J. Cole puts out 2 records dissing family and Diggy and nobody cared. Someone leaks an old Diggy record and there's a problem." Diggy also further explained everything shortly after this on an interview.
But they didn't even really know each other like that, so it wasn't like that. And then, she also told me, that he subliminally, also talked about, like her in a song called Purple Rain, which was also false.
Okay.
And so, it was just like, me sticking up for my family. That's all it really was. And like I said, that's my sister,
Right.
If you feel a certain, exactly, over everything, that's how I felt.
At this point, Vanessa again publicly denied the rumors when she tweeted, "Okay, enough with the f***ery on my timeline now. Our brothers are protective over us because guys stay lying. More importantly, that shit never happened." And after all of the Twitter drama, it seemed like things were starting to cool down.
This song for J. Cole, you guys allegedly pieced it up. How did that conversation go?
I didn't even put it out. That leaked. But it was just like, he came up to me and he was just like, it's all good. I didn't even mean it in that way. Like, none of that even happened, and I wasn't saying that I was doing any of that. That song that I made before he even made that song that had my name in it. So, it was whatever. I wasn't really tripping over it.
However, half a year later, when Kendrick invited Cole on stage to perform with him, Cole dropped a line that many people thought was targeting Diggy. He says, "Picture me hating on a young guy with talent. Album flopped, but it's cool he caked out on his allowance." Which is pretty funny because he's, a Nepo baby. So in response, Diggy came back quick with his own diss track titled Fall Down, which was debuted on The Breakfast Club. Diggy rapped, "I guess I rattled you, Snaggletooth. You know better. Thought J stood for Jermaine, not Jet Setter. You seen me and shook my hand, coppin' please in person. Now you act less than a man mentioning me in verses. You used to have dreams of my big sister kissing ya. Now it's nightmares of her little brother dissing ya." By this point, Cole had only done some subliminal low-key disses, didn't seem real into the beef, and he didn't even drop an entire diss track. But after Diggy had a leaked diss track and a released diss track, people were starting to make fun of him. They were clowning on him pretty hard because he kept going at Cole with multiple tracks that never got a response. And on top of that, Cole allegedly smashed his sister. Diggy tried to explain that he was only defending himself in an interview with ThisIs50.com when he said, "It wasn't me, man. He came first." But it was too late. The fans and even other artists fully turned on Diggy in the beef, making it out to be one of the lamest in recent years. Even Childish Gambino referenced the incident on his song Eat Your Vegetables when he said, "No one cares like it's J. Cole and Diggy." It started to become pretty obvious that Diggy was just using this beef to get more attention in the music industry. By not responding, Cole basically turned all of Diggy's weapons against him and perfectly summed up the situation when he went on to The Breakfast Club.
The Titanic, I'm joking, only provoking in hopes to go #1 again. Hoping some rapper disses me just to make this fun again. It's no fair. Pac had Mobb Deep and Biggie, and all I get left with is Tyrese and Diggy.
Oh, Jake, oh, come on, man. Come on, Jake.
Breakfast Club.
I mean, I do feel bad for Diggy because 1, he was just a kid. 2, everyone was just absolutely clowning on him. And 3, Cole cracked his sister. So that's a pretty rough spot to be in. And believe it or not, Nick Cannon was in a very similar situation as Diggy in his beef with Eminem. Nick Cannon has done pretty much everything in the entertainment industry, including rapping, acting, hosting a show, comedy, and a bunch of other things. Probably his most notable show is Wild 'N Out. However, Nick also got into a beef with Eminem, which didn't end up so well for him. It all started over Mariah Carey, who Eminem has claimed to have dated for months, but she has always denied these claims on multiple occasions. Years after their alleged relationship, Nick Cannon came into the picture when he started dating Mariah and eventually married her. Because of this, Eminem dropped a song called Bagpipes from Baghdad in 2009. This track went pretty hard at both Mariah and her newly wedded husband Nick, alluding to Mariah's struggles with alcoholism. During the song, Eminem said a bunch of wild things, most of which were directed at the two. He said, "Nick Cannon better back the fuck up. I'm not playing. I want her back, you punk. Nick, you had your fun. I've come to kick you in your sack of junk. Man, I could use a fresh batch of blood. Nick Cannon, you prick. I wish you luck with the fucking whore. In the bed with 2 brain dead lesbian vegetables, I bet you they become heterosexual. Nothing will stop me from molesting you. Lure the little boy with the chocolate chips ahoy chip cookie lookie, even took me a Polaroid pic." Eminem says a lot of weird things. that cookie line was crazy, but regardless, this obviously upset Nick and Mariah. Immediately, a Twitter feud between Nick and Eminem began and got so heated that even Diddy and Dr. Dre had to step in. In the end, Nick posted a now deleted Tumblr post saying he would be taking full action on you, Eminem. I don't know why no one has stood up to your bitch ass yet, but I guess it's going to take a corny, whack-rapping boy toy from Nickelodeon to set you straight. And trust, I'm going to be relentless. Even though I got a lot of other obligations and occupations, you are my new full-time job, homie. I asked myself, should I go find this bitch and just whoop his little ass? Let's not forget Eminem's amateur mixtape rants of calling African Americans the N-word and how he hates black bitches. How did we let him get away with that in the first place? He is a natural-born racist in disguise. Someone tell this coward that he finally barked up the wrong tree. Before Nick took full action like he said, his new wife Mariah, who at first stayed quiet, dropped her popular song Obsessed, which is a subtle diss against Eminem and his behavior. In the music video, a stalker appeared which heavily resembled Eminem, so it's really funny that this song is low-key an Eminem diss. However, a month later, Eminem dropped his response titled The Warning. This track had a similar vibe to the first diss and had a notable line acknowledging Mariah's track Obsessed when he said, "I got the same exact tat that's on Nick's back. I'm obsessed now. Oh gee, is that supposed to be me in the video with the goatee?" Nick responded positively at first by putting up some Bible quotes on social media, but he wasn't finished yet, and about a year later in 2010 dropped his own clapback titled I'm a Slick Rick. You could argue that Eminem's massively loyal fanbase had a hand in this, but overall the public reaction was that the song was very bad and a comical excuse of a diss. Even 50 jumped in a few times commenting on the beef as he normally does. Then Nick took things to another level and decided to challenge Eminem to a boxing match in a now deleted post where he said, "The time has come. Boys talk the talk, but men walk the walk." Nick has laid down the challenge to meet Eminem in the ring. However, not only did Eminem not respond to the boxing match, which wasn't that surprising, he also didn't even acknowledge Nick's I'm Slick Rick diss either. Usually, by not responding, you'd think that might be a sign of losing, but in Eminem's case, most people chalked it up to M being way too big to even worry about what Nick Cannon was saying on Twitter. As the years went by and Nick separated from Mariah, the guys appeared to have smoothed things over, with Eminem even being invited onto Nick's show Wild 'N Out. However, he never ended up appearing on the show, and this is where things start to get a bit embarrassing.
Last time I saw you, you were getting ready to battle Eminem.
And I'm still ready. This is what I'm saying, Tim.
I'm glad that didn't happen. That would have been horrible. You're in the room, I'm writing for you, but that would have been horrible.
Yo, Tim.
To your face, I would have been there for you, but oh my God, what was he
Listen,
doing?
I'm trying to find him. Where is he?
At this point, the beef was already pretty one-sided, with Nick being the only one keeping it going. and so he appeared to have realized this and fell back for a bit. That was till a couple years later in 2019 when Nick would again bring up the beef during a podcast with T.I.
He didn't want to battle me. It could have went.
After Nick talked for years about this beef without Eminem saying a word, Eminem decided to respond on Fat Joe's song Lord Above. M said, "I know me and Mariah didn't end on a high note, but that other dude's whipped, that pussy got him neutered. Tried to tell him this chick's a nut job before he got his jewels clipped. Almost got my caboose kicked, fool quit, you not gonna do shit. I'd let her chop my balls off too before I lost to you, Nick." After this went viral, Nick played it on his show and started making fun of Eminem for his age. Nick said, "We should change his name from Eminem to like Percocet. What's the pill that old people take? We gonna call him Cialis. Bring your walker, get out your wheelchair, Eminem, and pop whatever you want to pop." Should I respond back to this? It's not worthy of a response. He also went further and posted online saying, "Fat Joe's album is fire. He even did some charity work and dug Eminem out of his grave. I mean, his cave." And he ended the post with another invitation on Wild 'N Out to Grandpa Marshall for a rap battle. But Eminem again did not respond to this, so Nick made another diss track called The Invitation. This time though, Nick came with some pretty serious accusations in his diss, including name dropping Eminem's ex-wife and daughter, along with the past beef with Mariah when he said, "Call Kim, somebody get Haley, and that other kid you raising that ain't even your baby. My baby mama killed you off a decade ago. You still crying about it. Now who really the hoe?" Nick also even alleged that Eminem's chauffeur got a video of him giving another dude head, and Eminem very quickly took to Twitter with his response, shooting down all the scandalous rumors, especially about the chauffeur. Nick clapped back with his own tweet, and then that same month he dropped another diss titled Pray For Him. And again, that same month as well, before Eminem even had a chance to respond, Nick dropped another diss called Cancelled Invitation. The music video contained a bunch of old clips where Eminem was saying some pretty rough stuff about the black and LGBTQ communities, and while the statements didn't look great on Eminem, I think most of the fans had already had enough of Nick Cannon, and like the comments on his other disses, everyone overwhelmingly clowned him. Nick basically dropped 3 diss tracks in a row with no response from Eminem except for a tweet, and he just started looking desperate for attention. And I think Nick realized this too, because in a 2022 interview with Hip Hop DX, he said, "I was a little overzealous, I was a little heavy-handed, and I was legitimately hot and wanted to fight and all. I was a different guy, so I was mad. But at the end of the day, I ain't going to stand for no disrespect either. So in hindsight, I probably would have been a little bit more strategic and let maybe 1 or 2 of them linger. But to me, I showed up with a cannon to a knife fight." So I think he still thinks he won, which is kind of crazy. There haven't been any updates on the situation since then, but after Nick dropped 3 diss tracks to no response all within the same month, I think it's safe to say who won that battle, but I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. And Nick must have been smoking something crazy to think he could beat Eminem in a diss battle, but that doesn't mean that we should be smoking it too. Flavored air is becoming a major alternative when it comes to vaping and smoking, and a brand that has really been moving forward that market is Fume. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that doesn't have any vapor or nicotine. Instead, it just uses essential oils for the flavoring. It's not a vape, it's not an e-cigarette, it doesn't have any chemicals or anything. It's literally just flavored air. You get these cool flavored cores with flavors like peach blush, sparkling grapefruit, raspberry lemon, orange vanilla, and plenty more like that. See, obviously there's plenty to choose from. Not only is Fume good for replacing your bad habits, but it can also help with oral fixation and fidgeting. And these things are really fun to fidget with. I mean, you can just magnetic, you can twist it, I don't know. I like to play with these all day. The design is sleek, it looks great, and it's very high quality. Fume also uses third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products. Not only that, but I know people personally who have been using these to help replace their bad habits with some better ones. Being able to fidget and have that mind-mouth connection along with the flavored air is really helpful in replacing those bad chemical-filled habits. Over 500,000 people have already switched to Fume to help their habit change journey, and if you want to try it yourself, now's your chance. For a limited time, if you use my code MattyBalls and order the Journey Pack, you'll get a free Fume topper, which is a neat little accessory you can put on top of your Fume. So make sure to click the link down below at tryfum.com/MattyBalls or scan the QR code that's on screen right now to get started. Anyways, let's get back to the video. But at least the situation never got physical, because when Rich the Kid beefed with Lil Uzi Vert, he didn't end up getting that lucky. Around 2018, Rich the Kid and Lil Uzi were both already pretty relevant. So when the two rappers started beefing, everyone took notice. But instead of a bunch of heated diss tracks back and forth, we got something a little bit different. In 2018, Uzi was posting about some label issues he was having with DJ Drama because he signed to his imprint, Generation Now. Uzi dropped some games saying, and if y'all do sign to a major, don't sign to a rapper. or a DJ. It's just easier when the time comes for that fake shit. A couple of hours later, Rich the Kid replied, somewhat making fun of Uzi by saying, "That's why you should have signed with Rich forever." Uzi very quickly clapped back saying, "Boy, I'm not signing for 20 racks." Then, 2 days later, Rich posted on his Instagram story, sort of making fun of Uzi.
"Hey man, your boss ain't treating you right, your CEO ain't treating you right, man. Come over to Rich Forever Music, you know what I'm saying? Come over to Rich Forever Music."
About a month later, after no response from Uzi, Rich took his offer back. And I don't even know if this was a real offer or not, but it just seemed like Rich was forcing a beef that wasn't even there in the first place.
Right? Yo, if Uzi didn't have a deal, would you sign him?
Nah.
Why not?
Not right now, maybe back then.
Really?
Yeah.
Why not now?
Maybe I would sign him on my business, but not, you know what I'm saying, for personal reasons I wouldn't sign him.
Yeah.
About a month later, Uzi came back with a pretty funny and unserious response, posting a picture with him and a crab, and the crab was tagged as Rich the Kid. Uzi had also recently dyed his hair green, and Rich the Kid had green hair, so he responded saying, "Oh, look at my son Lil Uzi Vert trying to look just like me." Things started to look especially bad for Rich when the next day he posted a snippet of a diss track on Uzi. In the preview, some lyrics directly tied to Uzi were, "Your money getting shorter," which is a jab at Uzi's track Money Longer. Then later in the song, there was a reference to EXO Tour Life where he says, "All them dead friends, you a little middleman, you a little man." Again, while Uzi was seemingly trolling, it just looked like Rich was trying to force it. However, things began to simmer down for a while. That was only until months later, during the week of Rich the Kid's debut album release, when he decided to revisit the beef by fully releasing the Uzi diss track, Dead Friends. This was obviously a move to get a bunch of attention around the album drop, and a bold one at that, especially with what was depicted in the video that dropped later that month. But before the video was dropped, Uzi did respond with a verse on a G Herbo song. Uzi said, "Rich mad cause your ate my kids or something." And later, "I'm going mode, TY tell me when to go. Boy, you ain't rich, you a bitch." Rich called the response trash and went through with dropping the craziest music video for Dead Friends. In the video, an Uzi lookalike desperate to sign a record deal is jumped and then buried alive by Rich and his crew. At the same time, Rich also released a remix of 3 6 Mafia's Who Run It track, which included several disses aimed at Uzi. On top of this, in following weeks, Rich continued to keep the beef alive, yelling stuff out at concerts like, "F that guy Lil Uzi, man." By this point, again, Uzi didn't seem that serious because someone asked him about the beef and Uzi said, "Bless Rich and his family." Again, he could have been trolling, but at the end of the day, Uzi was not taking this too serious. For about a month, nothing really came from either side. At least that was until they ran into each other while they were both in Philly performing for the Roots picnic. Basically what happened was Uzi and his crew pulled up on Rich and his crew, seemingly trying to talk things out at first.
Hey, you my friend. Where you trying to go? I know, friend. I know where you at. I know you at, friend. I know you at, friend. But you know, what we doing? Friend. No, it's not. I'm trying to find out. You jumped out the car. It don't matter why you getting crazy, bro. I don't have nothing to say about this.
Many fans pointed out how Uzi was standing there all by himself while Rich was hiding behind his security. After this though, things started to get intense. First, when things got heated, Rich and his crew just took off. Then Uzi and his crew found Rich at a Starbucks where he was hiding and hands started flying. At one point after the altercation, Rich even resorted to jumping behind the counter with workers at the coffee shop. And finally, after the scuffle, you can see Uzi get back in the whip and ride away. Everything seemed to happen really fast with tons of different people from different angles recording it. Rich immediately hopped online to show off that he and his jewelry were unscathed during the altercation, saying,
"Niggas pulled up and did what? Did what? Walk around Philly like this."
Regardless, this resulted in the entire internet making fun of Rich the Kid, especially since Uzi is like 5'2" and just ran his ass down.
Here today for Monday, June 4th. Goes to Rich Homie the Kid. Now, if you old like me, then you're content.
Rich the Kid, man.
Okay, I'm old. Now we are getting to the reason that the homie Rich is getting donkey of the day. See, somebody swung at Rich, and it looked like they connected, and he immediately jumped behind the counter at Starbucks and started to make a triple mocha frappuccino. Now, maybe he didn't think we were gonna see the footage of him jumping behind the counter to make an iced Starbucks blonde cold foam cappuccino, and to avoid the wrath of the sassy savage Lil Uzi. Look, Rich Quan. In life, you have to live your truth. When you live your truth, nobody can use your truth against you. I mean, truth is that video of Uzi swinging on you and you jumping behind the counter will be used against you. But when you get online and lie, all witnessed, you get punked by the sassy savage Lil Uzi. So please give Rich the Quan Homie the Kid the biggest hee-haw.
His name is Rich the Kid. It's Rich the Kid.
I give up on telling him.
Rich Homie Quan and Rich the Kid, 2 different people.
If you say so.
But then for the years following, we wouldn't hear anything about this. Eventually, though, it seemed like the beef was squashed, and Rich spoke about it in an interview.
Rich, I'm just going to straight ask you, man, where is you and Uzi Vert's relationship now?
No, we ain't got no beef. We straight. We cool.
So overall, it seemed like throughout the entire beef, Rich was more about the smoke, but when things came in person, he ran and was chased off by the 5'4" Lil Uzi Vert, which amongst everything else, including the lying about it online and all that, none of this was a good look for Rich the Kid. And while Rich the Kid got bitched by a little dude, Ice-T got trolled super hard by a very young Soulja Boy. Back in 2007, Soulja Boy blew up from his song Crank That at the young age of just 17. While he had some really catchy songs that performed very well, he also got a lot of hate, especially from the genre's OGs. And while Soulja's been notorious for having tons of beef, none of his other ones were so iconic that they ended up getting their own Boondocks parody. Apparently, it all started when Ice-T was in the studio working on a mixtape. When T got into the booth, some guys he was with started throwing shade, claiming people don't want to hear his stuff anymore, and that they'd rather listen to new artists like Soulja Boy. So obviously he was frustrated, and T let out a pretty funny rant that he had no intentions of actually releasing.
Black Ice, Ice-T, Silver the Navigator, fuck Soulja Boy, eat a dick. This nigga single-handedly killed hip-hop. Soulja Boy, let me talk about Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy, I know you're young enough to be my kid, but you single-handedly kill hip-hop, man. That shit's garbage. And Hurricane, take them fucking beads out your fucking hair, kid. Come on, man up, you niggas. Stop bullshitting. You niggas is making me feel real fucking mad about this shit.
However, unknown to Ice-T, his now ex-associates included the entire rant as the intro track on the mixtape, which went very viral. And since Soulja Boy was not only new to the game but also 17, he felt the need to respond to Ice-T with his own rant. The video starts with Soulja and his boys watching the Ice-T diss. Then about 30 seconds in, Soulja cuts the clip off and starts going in on Ice-T for his age.
Okay, we came up.
Man, fuck all that. Look at here. This nigga Ice-T old as fuck, man. This nigga old enough to be my great grandfather. Now. He's the forefather of my nuts, nigga. This nigga.
Hey, was born, man.
Hey, now we Wikipedia this nigga. This nigga was born in 1958.
Throughout his response, Soulja said a bunch of different things like making fun of him for being old, making fun of him for repping the West Coast while being from New Jersey, and appearing in Law & Order as a cop while being on songs like Cop Killer. There was one part that was especially funny where Soulja got confused and said that Ice-T made NWA's song F the Police, which that was Ice Cube, not Ice-T. Regardless, he threw a 7-minute long barrage of disses, so he was bound to mess up at some point.
How you gonna make a song called Fuck the Police 35 years later, your ass playing the police on TV? Law & Order.
Soulja did claim that it wasn't beef and that he respects Ice-T as a legend, but the things T said forced him to respond. He also explained that in music, you have to adapt to the times because if you don't, you'll fall behind. Soulja was saying that Ice-T, who wasn't doing so great commercially at the time, was just hating on an up-and-comer. Overall, when Soulja wasn't just clowning on Ice, he did make some good points, which appeared to resonate well with the audience, and the situation started looking kind of bad on T.
At the end of this video, though, the point that we're trying to get across with, man, you was wrong for that, man. Think about it in my shoes, man. This time last year, I was poor as fuck. I was in the hood. I was in the ghetto. If what you living is true, you will understand where I'm coming from. Nigga, I wasn't born rich, nigga. I wasn't born in no big ass house like this. Nigga, I worked to get it. I'm 17 years old, dog. Nigga, I worked hard for this shit. You feel me? Even if all this got me out for one song, you should be congratulating. You should be congratulating. Real talk. You should be telling me, congratulations, young brother, get your money. That's what you be saying. That's what you should be saying instead of eat a dick.
In the closing part of his rant, Soulja said that if Ice-T thinks hip-hop is dying, he should do something to save it instead of just on the genre's new stars. By this point, believe it or not, 17-year-old Soulja Boy actually looked to be a bit more mature, which you would never expect. However, nobody expected Ice-T's response either.
Hey, what's up? It's Iceberg, man. I want to reply to all this internet drama that's going down, you know what I'm saying? I said something about this kid Soulja Boy while doing a mixtape, you know. The cats took it, you know, they basically were asking me how I felt about it, you know, the state of hip-hop and Soulja Boy, and I went on one. You know what I'm saying? So I apologize, Soulja Boy, for telling you to eat a dick. That was just in anger. You understand? Because truthfully, You know, a brother of my caliber shouldn't be talking down on a youngster your age.
So opening with an apology was a bit of a weird move, but it made a little more sense after T clearly realized he's too big and too old probably to be beefing with Soulja Boy. Ice-T also doubled down saying that Soulja's music was garbage, and he did say that he shouldn't have said what he said, but he also said Soulja shouldn't have responded. He continued by kind of threatening Soulja Boy, claiming that the West Coast, the OGs, and all of hip-hop will go after him if he goes back at Ice-T. Overall, the video didn't really help his case and just made him look a bit worse. And what Soulja Boy did was really funny, because instead of responding with a diss track or some strong words, he put out a animated video on YouTube. Soulja Boy might have been the first rapper to troll another rapper on the internet.
Hey yo G, this Ice-T. If you 50 years and older, you might remember me. But to everybody 49 years old and younger, I'm Ice-T. Dinosaur turned gangster rapper. You know, cop killer turned cop.
Most viewers thought this response was pretty funny, especially with how serious Ice-T was being beforehand, but eventually the beef just fizzled out. The situation was so talked about that even the Boondocks made a parody episode about the beef.
Now what about Sergeant Gutter? Man, Sergeant Gutter, that nigga can eat a dick. Hold on, right now. Wow.
Fuck this old ass nigga, man. This old nigga is old enough to be my dad, and he tell me to eat a dick? Nigga, what's wrong with you? You a grown ass man, and you telling a 15-year-old to eat a dick? I know your mother raised you better than that, dog. Matter of fact, excuse me, is this Miss Jenkins? Yes, it is. My name is Sergeant Gutter. And I don't know if you aware, but your son said some very rude things about me on the radio.
Yes, I know. He said some very rude things. He's too old to be acting like that, and I know I don't like him using that language either.
I don't know why the first clip is so low res, my apologies, but you guys get the point. Eventually, everything fizzled out, but in 2014, Ice-T finally reflected further on the beef with DJ Vlad. In this interview, he mostly explained how the beef was never meant to be personal.
And I just felt that they were taking the bar so low on hip-hop, not just that kid, but other kids too, that I was like, yo, man, we worked so hard to get this to this point. Let's keep it fly. It wasn't a direct thing on this kid, because I only heard probably one record. I don't even know. I kind of regret it. I said it because it turned me into a person that seemed like I wanted beef. And that's really not my style. Yeah. You know, people felt I got up out of the bed and went in on him.
It seemed like he genuinely realized that he had made some mistakes and regretted it. So in the end, it looks like long-term, no one's career was really negatively affected by this. But at the time, things did not look great for Ice-T when he was definitely punching down on a new artist. I want to put out a honorable mention in this video for Ja Rule and 50 Cent. Most of their beef wasn't that funny or embarrassing or whatever you want to call it. But I will say, in 2018, when 50 Cent allegedly bought 200 front row seats to ensure that Ja Rule's show would be empty in the front, that was pretty funny and didn't look so great for Ja Rule. Regardless though, if you like this video, you might like my video about hip-hop's most embarrassing albums, another one where we look into some embarrassing moments. Again, if you liked it, make sure to leave a like or even consider subscribing down below. Other than that though, it's been your boy Matty Balls, and I will see you guys next time.